This is Eric at Trademygun. Today we will be doing the second installment of the Versus series. Today we're doing the battle of the CSs. So I'm going to save the cases that we've been doing normally. Everybody knows what Planet Clip's casing is. Anything from what we're doing today of the CS1, CS1.5, and the CS2. All those cases are pretty much identical. They've been identical for a very long time. Nice, great hard cases, come with inserts, come with all their stuff that you could need for a gun. Planet Clips does do one thing I think better than everybody else. Their initial packaging is that they give you enough O-rings to rebuild the gun a couple times. So next we're going to go into just some of the guns we got here. Of course, CS1, the original, the bad boy. This actually has CS2 grips on it though, so look at that. That's a little different look than even the CS1.5. We'll talk about that more later. When we dive in deep today, we're going to really go over some of the nitpicky things with these guns. And then the CS2, right off the bat, some things that are interesting to notice. At World Cup, we had a lot of people still wanting CS1s. Just as many people wanting CS1s, 3.5s, GO3s, as many as they were wanting CS2s. We're not quite sure what that is. I think that's just a sway in the market of people finally getting out of some lower end stuff and moving into some higher end guns. And the CS1s right now are falling at a great price range. Used, there's not very many of them out on the market new anymore, but used, they're falling into a perfect price range to your mid to like high level gun. They're right around somewhere $700-800 ish. And then your CS2s, we're talking $1,000 price range used, but you still get all of these brand new. That's kind of where their market is. There's a lot of people buying them used, but there's a lot of people also still getting these brand new from us. And even the CS2 Pro, which we'll talk about a little bit when we dive in deeper. Biggest things you're going to notice, I'm just going to use the CS1 even since it has CS2 grips on it. One, the ergonomics are different. We'll go over that a little bit later, but that's going to be your main difference here. It's there is a bolt difference, and we'll talk about that. But I think the major thing for a lot of people is the feel on these guns is much different. And that's a big selling price for a lot of people, is how a gun feels in your hands. If you're going to spend tons of money on a gun, you're going to want a gun that absolutely feels perfect in your hands, and everyone has a preference. And there's a big difference to people between these two guns right here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do some real in detail stuff. We're going to go ahead and weigh the guns, show you how much they weigh with their stock barrels, then bring them in and we're going to pull them apart, talk about the specs, and really dive in deep to what these guns have to offer. Alrighty, and to weigh the guns, we'll start off with the CS1, weighing in at 2 pounds 1.5 ounces. Then to the CS1.5, 1 pound 0.95 ounces. And then finally, a CS2 at 1.90 ounces. And all these do have batteries in them, and they all are set up in their standard ways. So now to dive into the guns more deep. Alrighty, and so first, to dive in deep these guns, we're going to start off with the first one they came out with here. So we have the CS1. I'll work slowly. So big things that they came out with in the P realm that this has in it. So first off, it has the IV core, which was in the 3.5 that came out with the GSL, I think, the IV core. That was put in the 3.5, then put in the CS1. I think one of the best shooting bolts of all time. I love my 3.5, so I have a little bit of a special love for these things. And things they changed. So first off, they changed how the gun looks. Stretched out the frame a little bit. Took away the AT pipe, so the air is transferred straight through the reg into the bolt system. They changed how you get the batteries out and what kind of batteries you use. It's toolless, so you just yank the front grip off. I'm going to try to do it without blasting the camera. There we go. So, double A's instead of a 9 volt, and it's in the front grip. Easy access eyes. No more bolts or Allen key or stuff like that. Easy access eyes. It's hard to do this backwards sometimes. So then you have that, which then transfers into some different things such as, go together. Let's think, more things on this gun. Well, this has got CS2 grips, so there's the thing. The grips are different, as much as the ergonomics is different. The trigger is different. It's, I don't know, they used a different switch. It's still a micro switch and an opto switch. You still get your options. So you either have an optical switch, which is, it breaks a laser and it shoots, or it has an actual true mechanical switch in there. The trigger was just built different. I'm not really sure why. I don't prefer it, truthfully. But it's a thing that they've approved over time. Different feed neck. They added the shaft 5 barrel system. Trying to think of other things. Same board. Still pops. Different looking pops, but still pops. Your adjustments. This is the SFR. Instead of being what it was on the 3.5 where it kind of just came in and out, it's actually kind of a harder thing to change, which is fine by me because I've seen my 3.5 have issues with the SFR just kind of moving around on me. That's just, you know, hard play, getting in muddy and stuff like that. So there's your CS1. There's your main things. Oh, I forgot something massive on these guns. No more wires. There's actually, if I took this gun apart, if I just slid the gun frame off of it, there's a board that attaches and now transfers all your information, like what hooks up into your eyes, stuff like that. There's not just wires running down into your batteries, which would be up front actually in these guns. So then you got the CS1 right here. Move on to the CS1.5, which came out after the CSR, just like the 3.5 came out after the, you know, GSL. Different looking pops, milled differently. This is actually the true CS1 grip, CS1 grips instead of the CS2 grips that are on the CS1 over there. Still, try to do this backwards. Ivy core, tried and true. These things do not want to sit today. The CS1.5 got a low pro feed neck though. They started to put those standard on their guns. They showed off the FL kit. Came out with that. Trying to think of other things that did different. It's a blade trigger instead of a scythe trigger, which all of the guns from the CSR on came with, including the CS2, which we'll get to in a second. Same board, same battery setup, same wiring. There wasn't a ton difference between the CS1.5 and the CS1, but there's just some add-on bonuses, just like most of the updates to other guns. I think it had a little bit of a lower operating pressure than the CS1, and the CS1, you know, lower operating pressure than the 3.5. Which is kind of standard in the, you know, market. They're going to slowly back out the pressure on these things so they shoot softer and softer and softer, but stay consistent. So now we'll move on to the big jump that they made. The CS2 changed their ergonomics. The grip's still a easier move. The one biggest difference I'm going to point out though, I'm going to try to show this off the best I can. So they did the front different. A lot of people were snapping off, here I'll show you so you can look there. Look there. A lot of people were snapping off the CS1 battery system just because there wasn't a very long post in the front. It's kind of just bolted onto a little piece. So I took this apart. I could show you, but that's another video. This one's a little longer. Instead, you can see the bolts are kind of further down, so it allows for this battery thing's not really going to go anywhere. Different eye cover, still easy access, but just a little different. 2 AA's just like that one. It just goes in a little thing. Let's see. Things have changed. The trigger. A fully adjustable trigger. You can swing this thing so many different directions. I'll slide this out of the way. And it's, to me, one of the most adjustable triggers on the market. If not the most adjustable trigger on the market. Gives a lot of different feels for the hands. So that's the main thing. They changed the ergonomics, right? But with changing the trigger, they thought they could fit a larger group of people by having the ability to trigger for the trigger to move further out or further in based on your preferences. Change a little bit of milling on the pops. Change the grips, which you've seen on the first CS1, and now this, of course, the CS2 with the CS2 grips. Everything, you don't need bolts anymore or Allen keys to remove your grips or anything like that. They're all toolless. Low pro feed neck, FL kit, and then we'll get into the biggest poppy part of it, and that is the Gamer Core, which Planet Cups is putting in everything. Of course, this is the GP core, which is slightly different than your Gamma core. If I could show you, the internals are a little different here. I'll just do it. It's super easy. That is your difference. The other ones are just a little thinner, which allows for a little bit of a softer shot and a little bit lower operating pressure. But still, what they proved by putting that in the top end marker is any gun from the EMEC all the way up to this CS2. So from 200 to 1500, pretty much has an identical core. The shot's different, you know, the gun's different operating pressure, stuff like that. But the core is so trusted that they're going to put it in everything from a rental gun to the gun the pros use. Now, of course, they just recently came out with the CS2 Pro. The main difference is they made an aluminum barrel tip, gave you an extra trigger, and changed the milling up a little bit, but that's not an actual gun change, it's more just a look change, where the other guns had actual changes that went on with them. Let's think. There's not a lot else to talk about. The SFR on this, actually the trigger adjustment, sorry, not the SFR. Trigger adjustment looks like the SFR, but it's not. Kind of got rid of that little SFR adjustment. There's ways to adjust this gun now internally that are much easier to adjust. To me, the only gun that you really needed to mess with the SFR was the 3.5, because you can make that thing super soft if you adjust it right. That's no here nor there, but I think they're moving in the right direction with the CS2. I didn't love the CS platform, the CS1 and CS1.5. Smaller hands, don't love the big grips. These little grips I like more. But what we're going to do now is get a bunch of people outside with these three guns, shoot them, and get their opinions. It's going to be a little different than last time, and we're going to show these off a little bit more. Then we'll come back after that, give you an overview of the guns, my thoughts and opinions, and who really won this battle.
Hey, hi, I'm Jeremy of the Trademygun Outlaws, owner. I'm going to try these guns out. Well, honestly, they all shot pretty darn good. I'd probably go with the CS2 because it had the softest trigger pull. I feel as if I probably could have maintained a stronger stream with that gun. That's probably the reason why I would go with that gun. But to be honest with you, all three of the guns shot pretty darn well.
Luke, Trade My Gun Tech, current D3 player, played for the Extreme Stingers and Rat Pack last season. I think just for preference reason, out of all three of them, I'd have to say the CS1.5. The bigger grips feel a lot better in my hand, more comfortable for me. It's a nice soft shot. It's in between the hard shot of the CS1 and the super soft shot of the CS2.
Whenever you're ready.
Becker, I work in the warehouse, retired D4 player. I'm here to try some Planet Eclipse guns. I'd say this one a lot smoother, not a huge amount of kick, more like an old 3.5.
CS2 sick, bro!
And last last but not least, I'm Eric at Trademygun, and I'm going to shoot all these put-on grip scouts for us. I'm gonna be honest. I definitely like the shot quality and the fit and finish of the CS2 and hot grips. But I was shooting the CS1.5. I think it's gonna give it a nice little run for its money. It felt really good shooting. Not quite as soft as the CS2, but I kind of like that about it. So there's my take. Alright, to finish off the overview versus battle, we had all the guys shoot the guns, we were running all the specs and all the guns, and I think we finally came out the winner. I think the majority of people are going to prefer the CS2, and that's just because of the fact that you can customize it a little bit better to fit your hands, fit your feel, and to me it's got a much softer shot. But even I, who don't love the CS1, CS1.5 and CS1 are not terrible options. Basically slapping an FL barrel onto a CS1 gives you a CS1.5. There's a few little differences, but that's all preferences. Again, if you don't even like the blade trigger, CS1 doesn't have one. Perfect. But other than that, the CS1 and 1.5 are two fantastic options for the price nowadays. You can pick them up on Trademygun.com used anytime. We usually have a couple at all times. We even have some CSRs. CS2s are a little harder to come by. People love these things, but we have been moving them. We have them brand new always. Planet Eclipse is still making the CS2 as well as the CS2 Pro. So check Trademygun.com to find any of these guns. As always, please like and subscribe, and here's your new winner.